When trying to solve this problem, they ask you to find a quadratic equation using 3 points and then to find the regression equation, which means using all the data set. So let's first look at the 3 data points given, 14, 42.2, 15, 47.6, and 16, 54. If we go to our calculator and we enter in the data, to do that we're going to go to Stat, and we're going to go to Edit, and I entered in those 3 data points into List 1 and List 2. The X values go to List 1 and the Y values go in List 2. Next, we'd like to turn our scatter plot on. To do that, we go to Second, Y equals, and we're going to go to plot number 1, and we're going to turn it on by hitting Enter on the on. Everything else here is already set up for my scatter plot. The first graph is scatter plot. Your input is in List 1. Output is in List 2. And if I adjust my window so that my data set fits in there, so I want all my X values or my input values that are in List 1, they all fit between 0 and 20, so I should be okay there. And for my outputs, they all fit between 0 and 60. Now I probably could adjust the graph more, but it's only 3 data points, so it's probably not that big of a deal. I can see all 3, and I'm going to go to my stat now, and this time I'm going to arrow over to calculate, and this time I want to calculate quadratic regression. Quadratic regression is choice 5, and then I want to tell it X list is List 1, Y list is List 2, and I'm going to do an extra step and have it store my regression equation into the Y1. To do that, I'm going to hit alpha, the green button here, F4, and choose Y1. Arrow down to calculate and hit enter. And it went ahead and it calculated my quadratic regression equation. So my quadratic regression equation for just the 3 data points is going to be 0.5 x squared minus 9.1x plus 71.6, which has been stored in the y equals for me. You can see they did do some rounding on ours. Again, if you wanted to round that to be 0.5, that's fine. I'm going to go back to the main screen here. The other way, if you had one of the older model calculators that you put that in, it would look like this. Quadratic regression, List 1, comma, List 2. So your input, comma, output, comma, and then where you want to store it. You can always type it in Y1, so you don't have to have the calculator store it there if you do not want to. And again, it gave me an equation of 0.5 x squared minus 9.1x plus 71.6. And that is what I would put into my math lab for the first answer. The second answer, what they would like, is for us to actually go back to our data set, and I'm going to clear out the data by arrowing up into the list 2 and hitting clear, enter, and that'll clear out the data I have there, and the same thing in list 1. Now I want to go ahead and type in the data. I've got 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 42.2, 40, oops, sorry I got that value wrong. It's 34.9, 37.3, 42.2, 47.6, 54, and 61.9. So when they're asking for the quadratic regression equation, they actually want us to use our entire data set. So to use our entire data set, we type them into my inputs are still in list 1, my outputs are in list 2, and this time when I'm going to go back to y equals, clear out the equation I just had for a moment, and my graph will probably still show. My scatter plot is on, and if I click graph, now you can see the data points that we have. And I think I might be missing one, so let me go back and look. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, well the 61.9 I'm not seeing because my window is only going to 60. So I need to change my Y max if I want to see that data point. Good, now I can see all data points. So this is my scatter plot. I want to come up with a quadratic regression equation, so I'm going to hit Stat, arrow over to Calculate, Quadratic Regression, choice 5. And everything is pretty much the same as before because I put the data in the same list as before. And I'm going to hit alpha F4 and go ahead and put in that Y1 so it stores it for me, arrow down to Calculate, and hit Enter. So this is the quadratic regression equation, 0.5982 x squared minus 11.9054x plus 91.425. And if we look at that, it should be coming very close to all of the data points. Now when we come up with a practical domain for this function, we may want to limit it from about the vertex on because our data is not showing that there was a decrease and then an increase, so we probably only want to use the second half of that parabola from the line of symmetry to the right of it. So that is how you come up with a quadratic regression equation. And again, if you were typing that in on one of the other calculators, you'd go to Stat and arrow over to Calc. You do everything the same way, but when you enter in, it would look like this if you have one of the older models.